The following review will contain major spoilers to the PlayStation 4 video game Cyberdimension Neptunia for Goddesses Online. Please stop watching the video if you are currently playing the game and don't want any of the plot details ruined for your playthrough. Thank you for your time and attention. Hello and welcome everyone to the Marr Show. Thank you guys for joining me for another episode, as today, I'm gonna geek out. I mean, not saying I didn't geek out before in the past episodes or anything, but rather, I'm finally gonna talk about a game that I've been dying to play for close to over a year now at this point, that being Cyberdimension Neptunia for Goddesses Online. That's not to say I didn't enjoy my time playing all the other Neptunia games, but rather ever since I saw gameplay footage of 4 Goddesses Online, it yet did amazing. I love the fact that the game was using a brand new game engine, the Unreal Engine 4. I love the hack and slash RPG aspect of the game that really is my type of gameplay style. That's not to say I didn't enjoy the turn-based aspect of the original games or anything, but I've always been a fan of the hack and slash RPG genre since Kingdom Hearts on the PlayStation 2, and not to mention this would be the spin-off game that would focus solely on Vert, one of my favorite characters in the Neptunia series. Whenever people talk about Vert, it's kinda mixed with people. Some say that she's a great character, and others just can't stand her. And I think with the mixed reaction with Vert is mostly due to the writer's fault. That's not saying they're horrible, I mean I love the writing with all the games so far, but rather I think Vert has been used unfairly, if that's the correct word, being seen more as a fan service character instead of, well, a character. Not to mention constantly overusing her wanting a younger sister gag so much. In fact, that's probably like 50% of her dialogue most of the time, wanting to steal Nepgear or any of the younger sisters away, and while I will admit they do overuse that gag a lot, that's not to say Vert doesn't have any bad qualities that I think makes her interesting. For one, she's the most mature out of all the other CPUs, acting more like a mother figure almost to all of them, having good advice and being well acquainted not to let her anger get the best of her. She doesn't get as ticked off like Blonde, and she doesn't get agitated like Noir does when talking to Neptune. She's very patient and takes well to heart on the situation at hand, and while she can be boastful at times, especially with her yooks, that doesn't mean she doesn't treat any of her friends any less equally, and views all of them as, well, family almost. Or at least that's in my opinion anyway. Not to mention, she's a very hardcore gamer, playing games constantly to the point where everyone's questioning whether she's doing her job as a CPU, even Neptune admitting that she's probably lazier than she is.
Not even close.
And speaking of her being boastful at times, I think it's kind of perfect relationship between her and Blonde being represented for both Xbox and Nintendo. And while I can understand people not liking Vert solely for overusing the younger sister gag, and some people has complained that they don't really like the character design of Vert, I for one do love Vert, mostly for so many aspects that I mentioned that I think sometimes the writers don't really use to their advantage or don't focus much of, and just use her mostly as fan service, which is a shame, and I really do like Vert, so that's the reason why I was very excited for 4 Goddesses Online. I wasn't expecting her to have a deep dive into her character psyche, but try to, make her stand out as a protagonist in this one. I mean, we already had a Noir spin-off and even a Blonde spin-off, so I was excited to see how well this would turn off. Not to mention, this game focusing on the 4 Goddesses Online, an MMO that Vert plays constantly in the game series. And after playing 4 Goddesses Online, I can safely say it's a fantastic game. Even though, really think about it, after playing Mega Dimension Neptunia V2, I like that a little bit more, but 4 Goddesses Online is a second place in my book of my favorite games I played in the Neptunia series. Everything from the gameplay and writing, and even the visual upgrades of using the Unreal Engine 4, I loved all of it. There's a lot to talk about. Yeah, that's just a lot to talk about. I'm getting so excited, so let's just start with the story here. In this dimension of game industry, the 4 CPUs are invited to play in the test beta for a brand new version of 4 Goddesses Online. When signing in, they encounter Bouquet, an NPC who joins along with them on their journey across the main story campaign. Bouquet tells them that they are the chosen ones, who are tasked to awaken the 4 goddesses of legend to stop the revival of the Demon King Jester. Along with their playthrough, many other events happen. The sisters later join along with their guild, they accidentally form a rivalry with 2 other players, Black Cat Princess and Kyria, and even have to help the 4GO's GM to stop a programmer from destroying the game's world. And that's the summary of it. Yes, it's a lot shorter compared to Mega Dimension Neptunia V2 or even the regular main installment games, but it's a spin-off title. I wasn't expecting it to be 60 plus hours of gameplay, even though that would kind of match with the tone of MMO games. I never played an MMO RPG, and this game definitely felt like an MMO to me, but I'll get to that once we talk about gameplay. As for the story aspect, I enjoyed it. Another slice of life game of the CPUs and the candidates taking a break from game industry and just having fun within this beta version of the game. There's a lot of interesting topics regarding the MMO genre, and there was even a lot of interesting discussions that the characters had, such as having an extra life in a game, or even Vert being very upset whenever an MMO closes down due to low interest in the game or just low number amount of players, and it really makes you upset for some of these MMOs that people love, that they spend countless hours of level grinding, exploring, and fun memories just being closed down for whatever reason. And I'm not saying these are very in-depth, there's a lot of great fun moments and even hilarious dialogue. One of my favorite scenes that I thought was hilarious was with Uni, as she actually does play first-person shooter games online.
An FPS isn't just a game after all, it's a lifestyle.
Anyone who knows anyone who's a major fan of FPSs, whether they be Call of Duty, Battlefield, or whatever, can relate to this in a way. There's also a bunch of fun subplots in the game, including a pond that is hard to unlock an event in, that sometimes require having to sacrifice a player's personal item to release a different event depending on which player, and some of the more hilarious parts comes in at the cathedral where the characters confess to the sister of some of their personal thoughts and confessions. Although speaking of writing, I was kind of hoping for a certain joke to appear in the game. I know it's overused, but I thought that it would have been hilarious if they would have used this meme in the game at one point or something. I'm not sure how, but you know what? I'll just put a little sketch bit here.
Listen everyone, the Demon King lies beyond that portal. Even though our levels are high and our equipment have been upgraded beyond comprehension, this will not be an easy battle. So during our little tea break, I conjured up a strategy so we can beat him most effectively. Firstly, me and Noir will...
Alright, enough talk. Let's do this. Neptune Jenkins!
Baba!
As for the new cast members, it's kinda mixed for me. Black Cat Princess is kind of annoying, the Demon King Jester as well as his 2 servants were kind of forgettable, and then we got Kyria. At first when I saw this not Kirito person, I was kind of thinking she would be this lonesome player, like, I am a depressing character who works alone. But no, she turns out to be a servant of Black Cat Princess, following her around and joining with her along the quest. She wasn't really that interesting, although I was kind of expecting a not Asuna to appear. Wouldn't that be funny if they included like an Asuna-like character? I love your game. I love you. There were 2 new cast members, however, that I really enjoyed. The first being Bouquet. Bouquet, for one, is an NPC who doesn't have any scripted dialogue. Sure, she does the whole spiel of telling the player what's going on in the 4 Goddesses online beta, but being an NPC, she doesn't really have any scripted dialogue and can talk to Vert and the other players any way they want, having her own free dialogue and even kind of free will a little bit. And speaking of Vert, for those who absolutely hate the younger sister gag, you're gonna have to get used to that. Every time Vert sees Bouquet, she always has to yell, "Oh, my darling younger sister!" And yeah, I will admit, it gets old after a while. However, there are 2 things within this gag that actually does make it interesting. For one, at the end of the Mine storyline, Vert actually apologizes to Bouquet for pushing the younger sister envelope to her bit and wants to start fresh new as friends. This is something that I wasn't really expecting, and I'm really glad the writers did kind of put that in. Yes, it's kind of late within the story of where we constantly have to hear that gag of "my younger sister's finally with me" and all that stuff, but I like that scene. I like that Vert actually admitted that she did went a bit too far and actually wanted to try to rekindle a brand new friendship with Bouquet, and I like that. Plus, one thing that I forgot to mention in my Mega Dimension V2 review is the voice actress that plays as Vert. Originally, Vert was voiced by Tara Platt, but ever since Mega Dimension Neptunia V2, she's voiced by Carrie Keranen, who also happens to be the voice of Rom in the games as well. And even though I did like Tara's voice for Vert, I think she's great, I really did enjoy Carrie's performance as Vert. Yes, I know it's double duty for her to voice as two main characters in the game, but I think her role as Vert is really spot on. I really liked her voice. Even though Tara's voice gives Vert a lot more elegance and proper mannerism, with Carrie's performance she definitely adds some more over-the-top goofiness, especially whenever she sees Bouquet.
Have you ever considered that our names sound very sisterly?
Do you believe it is possible we were separated at birth?
There are a bunch of bouquets in front of the cathedral!
Oh, this is indeed Eden.
And it's kind of ironic considering that the Oracle of Limbox, Chica, has a little bit of an overacting issue, acting over the top whenever the situations, just as trying to give Vert's attention by getting sick all the time. And I think with the way that Vert acted whenever she encounters Bouquet, definitely works with Carrie's performance, acting some comedic value that really had me laughing at times.
And once we gather all of the sacred treasures, the beautiful union of the goddesses and my younger sister will take place.
And now on the topic of voice actresses, Noir's voice also changes in this one. Apparently the original voice actress for Noir was part of a voice actor strike that was going on, and thus they had to find someone to fill the void for Noir, that way the game can be released for the US. And even though I do like the original voice of Noir, I kinda like the new voice they got for this game just a little bit better. There's nothing wrong with the original voice of Noir, but I just love this new voice actress's role. Then again, I think it's a lot more calming for Noir, and I think it kind of works well where she's taking time off from her busy schedule from all of Last Station's paperwork and all, and just wants to relax and have fun. I think it just works a little bit better with the voice actress they got for Noir in this particular situation. I am hoping though that they do bring her back, or the original voice actress back, for Noir in Super Neptunia RPG. I'm not sure what the whole situation's going on with, but whoever they got for Noir to fill in the void during that whole strike incident, I have to give kudos to. She did a good job, I think. Okay, back to new cast members real quick before we jump into the actual game itself and all. The new character that I really enjoyed and I kind of wish there was some more focus on was on Mine. She's a former main programmer for a game called World Break Online, another MMO that was gaining some pretty heavy momentum and competing against 4GO back then. However, due to some maintenance issues, also a combination with negative feedback she was getting from some of the changes with her game, as well as 4GO's success, she starts having some bitter hatred for 4Goddesses Online, to the point where she breaks into the game and gives Black Cat Princess and Nakirito a cheat device to break the game essentially. And you really feel bad for Mine. I love looking at her flashback scenes and seeing her problems with trying to keep staff members happy, trying to avoid negative comments about the changes going on with World Break Online. You really feel for her. In fact, fun thing is, Vert actually played her MMO and really loved it, and you just feel sorry for Mine, and I really wish there was some more time guaranteed for Mine, even though I think we did get some development, but I guess some more focus, as I really did like Mine. Not essentially a true villain, but rather someone who just wanted to bring a game of just their own love and passion of creating this world that they make and just see it crumble due to so many different circumstances. Though I do have one issue that is kind of similar to Mega Dimension Neptunia V2's in a way, but a little bit more in there with the issue, and that's the pacing of the story. Yes, we got the main campaign of Four Goddesses Online, but then you got the mine incident where she brings in the cheetah tool, and you have to stop that and try to save the Four Goddesses Online world from destroying and so on. And then after that's done, there's the credit sequence, and that was literally at the end of the mine playthrough. But then afterwards, you got the rest of the Four Goddesses Online playthrough to do, completing the main objective of defeating the Demon King Jester and his minions. I will admit, it just made the last half of the game feel lukewarm, like it didn't feel important. I mean, the game is easy to platinum in reality, but really having the credits play in the middle section, when in reality they probably could have maybe include Mine's cheat tool, where the cheetah formed with the Demon King Jester to form an ultra powerful enemy for Vert and the others to stop, or some form of way. I guess after where they play the credit sequence in the halfway point of where they haven't even completed the Four Goddesses Online story campaign, just made the pacing or the rest have feel not as important. Heck, even after beating the Demon King Jester and we get a little montage of the 8 playable characters commenting on the victory, I don't know, I guess it just didn't leave an impact as much. So I think it would have been better to maybe have Mine more integrated with the Demon King Jester, where her cheat tool combines with the Demon King Jester NPC and have to fight that in a way. I'm not sure, I'm just trying to figure out, because the last half definitely didn't feel as important compared to the first part once you complete the Mine storyline. That was a lot of story to get away. I really did enjoy it, despite some pacing issues and some of the new cast members that didn't really leave a struck as much. But what about, well, presentation wise? Before I even get to the visual aspect, I have to talk about the music, which I love. Funny thing is, unlike the other games where they do reuse music from the past games, all the compositions in Four Goddesses Online are brand new, exclusive to this game. The music is outstanding, I think. But of course, once you get done with it, we have to talk about the visual aspect of the game. As I mentioned, the game is built using the Unreal Engine 4 instead of the current main engine that was used in the past games, which this is what really intrigued me. That's not to say I didn't enjoy the presentation with the other games, it's the same, but that's the problem, it's the same. Sure, you got new dungeon designs and new enemy types to fight, but really the game engine is mostly the same. And sure, Cyberdimension Neptunia V2 is definitely where they definitely mastered the engine, not being so glitchy and being in a more constant 60 frames per second frame rate, but comparing it with the other spin-off games that use that same game engine in York, just doesn't really make any, I want to say it doesn't make the game stand out, not to say horrible, no, I mean, I still got a lot of spin-off games on Vita to play, but in terms of visual department, sure there's some differences when you have characters that were introduced in one game and another, but visually not really a whole lot has changed in the past years with the franchise. Whereas with Four Goddesses Online, I really love the look of the Unreal Engine and how well all the characters are integrated with, as well as with the enemies and dungeons that are in the game. I love exploring around the dungeons, being free to go against a whole army of enemies and just being able to find treasures and secrets and exploring parts of the dungeon that just leaves breathtaking views. I mean, this game is beautiful. But I have to admit, because they're using the Unreal Engine 4, and I guess this was the first time using it in the Neptunia game, that doesn't mean there wasn't a few glitches here and there that I did come across. None that made me mad. Heck, I don't really get that mad at glitches, as I think they're fun and can sometimes lead to hilarious results. There was a few glitches I did stumble across during my playthrough, which I'll show here. Okay, so here I'm playing as Nepgear, and for some reason I'm hovering over the ground. Granted, I was able to beat those skeleton guards easily, but I just kinda hovered around the air for a little while.
Away! Away!
It's a fat cop. This one happened to me quite a bit. As I was stopping in one area, all of a sudden my party member, it doesn't matter which one it was, just kinda ran back and forth. I'm not sure why this kinda happens, especially since this one I got most of the time. But I do think it's kind of funny, especially since Rom here, I think she's a bit scared or something. It's like, don't worry, Rom, we'll make it out of this, just believe in yourself. This happened to me time to time as well, getting stuck in one spot with no way to exit out. This mostly happened when I was in boss battles, but luckily you can easily get out by switching between a new character, and yeah, you could get out pretty easily. As you can see, I'm fighting a harder version of Cheetah, and the frame rates are atrocious. I was worried during this boss fight. I was close to beating him, her, it, whatever. And the health, I was almost close to beating, but I was nervous of the game crashing as well, with the fact that the game was freezing up, or the frame rates was just slowing down like this. Luckily, I was able to beat this version of Cheetah, and the frame rates restored back to normal once I got out of the dungeon. Right here, I'm finding Minotauros, and just as I was getting his health to under 100,000, he just stood still. He didn't move anywhere. He just stood in that exact same spot. Heck, I'm fast forwarding the footage right now, and he just stood still like he didn't want to fight anymore. And I guess it kind of makes sense with the way that he progresses throughout the story, but yeah, it was an easy victory for me. And of course, I did get my game to crash one time during my play session. However, that crash happened literally as I was about to start entering to an area, and I was almost done with guild rank 8. I think I had like only 8 quests left, and that was it, and it wasn't really that bad to really have a game crash that late in the game. If it was more frequent, or when I was fighting the Demon King Jester, I'd be more upset, but luckily for me, my game crashed close to where I was about to finish the game, platinuming it and everything. Other than that, it wasn't anything that really disrupted my playthrough with the game or anything that really made me upset. But now let's talk about the meat and potatoes of any game, the gameplay. There's kind of a lot to really talk about, but I'm gonna start things off at the hub world, Wishing Well. There's a lot of different shops you could go to buy items, upgrade your equipment, and get gems to help increase your character's stats a bit. But there's 2 places in particular that I enjoyed going to, one being the Fancy Shop, run by Pico and Plutia. Here you could buy different costumes and accessories for your characters, and there's a lot of customizable options. I really enjoyed equipping new costumes and new gear for my characters. While the costumes per se don't really have any advantages, they don't increase your character's strength or defense in any way, they just look really awesome, especially when you have your free camera roll mechanic, when you can open up in the menu across the dungeon just to give a closer look how the characters look. They look pretty awesome. And then you got the Cathedral, where you can save your game, view your CG events, as well as do prayer. Here you could select a specific effect that when you go into a dungeon, that prayer will affect your characters, such as maybe having your HP increase 10% or increase your strength and intense up to 15%. This can really help a little bit when you go into a tougher dungeon, or there's a dungeon where you have to fight a boss that's a little bit stronger than the previous boss. A prayer really helps your party out a little bit. And of course, it acts like your regular Neptunia game. You go into a guild and sign up for a quest, go through the dungeon, whether being going through killing 5 doggoos or finding 3 specific items from an enemy and so on, and reporting to that guild. And once you complete a guild, you can unlock through the next guild rank. That allows you to go through harder challenges and harder quests to complete. And while this game isn't really an MMO, I mean, yeah, there's online multiplayer, but not heavily infused like regular MMOs. I definitely did have that whole MMO vibe, even after going through rank 8 and after completing a certain set of quests and having more quests unlocked and everything. It just has that special feeling where it's not an MMO, but you get that MMO RPG feeling, and that's what I did like about it. But let's talk about the battle combat as you go through the dungeons. You can run around of course and find items, but what about engaging in enemy combat? Unlike the previous games I played, which has all been turn-based, which I like, but in the end of the day, if I really have to choose, I always love the hack and slash RPG aspect, like in Kingdom Hearts. And as my friends pointed out to me, my regular friends, not Neptune friends. I just need more friends who's an insane nut like Niam. I mean, heck, I got a freaking Neptune pudding pen on my hat for goodness sake. But as my friends pointed out, the gameplay is kind of similar to Kingdom Hearts a little bit. And that's a good thing. Having that hack and slash vibe of attacking an enemy, locking onto enemies with R1, using your SP gauge to unlock awesome skills that you can customize in the menu at any time, as well as an awakening gauge. When you activate this allows your SP to restore a little bit faster, as well as possibly giving you some extra strength bonus. And when your awakening gauge is at flee or over, you can use an awakening skill by pressing L flee again, and well yeah, it's pretty awesome and takes down a lot of the enemy's break meter. I also forgot to mention that if you block an enemy's attack at the right time, you can counterattack with Perfect Guard. Not only does this help you learn the enemy's attack patterns, but also you actually learn when to block just at the right time to unleash an awesome counterattack, and it's really fun to use this ability. In the game, you play as 12 playable characters, the 4 CPUs, the 4 CPU candidates, as well as the 4 goddesses, which are all versions of the CPU's forms. Each character has a special skill and playstyle that makes them stand out compared to each other. Even though I tried all of them, the two that I played the most were Vert and Uni. With Vert, her enchanting skills can also affect the rest of your party as well, such as when you use Fire Relive and the enemy has a weakness against fire, it gives the other characters the fire element as well. But alas, the best character that I think everyone can agree that is broken and really is the most awesome character to play as is Uni. Uni plays as a thief, but she is so much fun to use. Her range attacks are really good for bosses at faraway distances. Her skills are overpowered, especially the 2 skills Rapid Barrette and Element Shot. Plus, not to mention, even though there's a dodge mechanic, the dodge mechanic works extremely well for Uni, as I think the weight of the character matches with the dodge mechanic, and yeah, let's just say she's a badass. So yeah, the gameplay is kind of similar to Kingdom Hearts, running around, hacking slashing enemies, and using your skills in awesome ways, and it's really fun. It can be repetitive a bit, but I really enjoyed hack and slash RPGs, and with the newer dungeons and the new Yuk for the game, it just really made me so happy to explore around the dungeons and experiencing the awe and beauty, as well as just fighting different enemies. There's quite a bit of different enemy types. Yes, there's some bosses that do repeat with different color palettes, but they can be a bit tricky. In fact, some of the bosses, especially later on in the game, can be really tough, especially the Demon King Jester with all 3 forms, especially when he does that super death bomb move that just wipes out your entire party even at full health. But this boss was fun to fight. He was really challenging. Especially one point where I was playing just as Vert and all of my party members died, including Uni. Yeah, it took some time, but it was so much fun and challenging for me. And gameplay wise, I really enjoyed the action RPG. That's not to say I don't enjoy the turn-based combat like it was in the main installment games. It was a lot more interactive than like any of the other turn-based games I played. Then again, I love those type of turn-based games where there's more play input like Super Mario RPG, but I always been a fan of hack and slash role-playing games, and it was so much fun, and I didn't get bored of the repetitiveness whatsoever. Even after completing all the guilds or like going through the same bosses, fighting tougher versions of them, it was really fun and challenging for me at least, and that's the one thing I love about 4 Goddesses Online, was the gameplay addictiveness to it. So overall, the game was great. I loved so much about it, from the story and the writing, the gameplay especially is really addicting, but that doesn't mean that everything with the game was pitch perfect. There was a few things that I guess I was wanting more of, or stuff that I was kind of hoping, and even some stuff that did kind of agitate me. For one, opening the game, because they got this thing closed so hard I can't open it. Actually, when I mean by opening a game, I mean booting it up on the PlayStation 4. That doesn't sound anything bad, but then, well, just go through it. First, you got the game going through the company logos, which are non-skippable. Then a warning screen about not copying or illegally importing the game whatsoever, not skippable. Then you get this long loading screen where you have to go through 1% to 100% of the game loading screen, not skippable. Then a little character prompt screen, not skippable. And then you get the intro song, which is skippable, and then you could continue with the game. Leading up to about, I didn't really estimate, but to me it felt like a good 2.5 minutes of the game booting up itself before you can actually start the game. This isn't that bad, especially when you could just turn the PS4 in rest mode and you could just turn the PS4 on and continue on with the game. But if you're one of those people that has to close the software to open through Netflix or YouTube or play another game a lot, it can get still, having to wait 2.5 minutes to play and continue on with your play session. In the game, you play as 12 playable characters, being the 4 CPUs, the 4 CPU candidates, and the 4 goddesses. But that's really all you get to play. In the game, you do encounter some of the other regular cast members, such as Kampa, IF, Uzume, etc. And I was kind of surprised we don't get to play them. I mean, yeah, the shop merchants per se, but I think it would have added some interesting playstyles to play as some of those characters. Like, wouldn't it have been great to see you play as Pludia using her needles and thread to attack enemies? And heck, we actually see Awful in the game selling eggplants to people. But wouldn't it have been hilarious to play as Awful first time in the game and using eggplants as weapons and all of that? Would be hilarious to see, but sadly we don't really get to play any of the other cast members. We see them with subplot events and even merchants, but we don't really get to play a lot of them, so that kind of makes the character roster not feel that strong. I know there may be some people that loved playing as the 4 goddesses. If you play as all 4 goddesses in one get-go, the playstyle isn't as unique compared to like if you were playing as Neptune, Uni, Ram, and Noir in your party or something. You don't get to see like a difference, so it would have been nice to have Uzume or Pico or so many others as playable characters in the game, regardless if they're shop merchants in Wishing Well or not. And I guess the most common complaint I've heard from some reviews is the game's length compared to the main installments, which can allow 40 to over 80 hours of gameplay time. For me, I think I beat the game in under 28 hours, I think, after completing Guild Rank 8 in my playthrough at least. So yeah, the game is short, and I wasn't expecting to be a 40-hour plus story game with it being a spin-off title. Although I guess I was wanting more varied dungeons. I mean, yeah, the dungeons we get are beautiful and fun to explore, but there's really only 13 dungeons in the game compared to a vast amount of other dungeons in the other games. Yes, some of them have the same yooks, but still have a different dungeon layout and enemy placement pattern. And I guess I was hoping after you got done with the story mode, or at least being the Demon King Jester once, you get maybe 4 extra dungeons that have difficult enemies and more different designs or something. So I wish there was some more different dungeon designs or some more locations to explore. I mean, heck, with 13 dungeons, it doesn't really cover the entire map, leaving a lot of empty space in my opinion. So overall, how was 4 Goddesses Online? Well, again, it's a short game, which I'm not complaining about, but I guess I was wishing for some more dungeon variants or anything. And I wish if you could play as like Kampa, Uzume, and so many other cast members, replacing the 4 goddesses and putting them in with the party members. And this is a minor complaint if you don't have so many softwares you constantly close the application, but having to wait 2.5 minutes to boot up the game to continue playing, since none of those company logos or anything are unskippable, is kind of a bummer to say the least. However, I had a wonderful time with 4 Goddesses Online. It was definitely a game that reached to my expectations after waiting over a year to finally get my hands to play this title. Of course, the writing and story is great, and it was awesome to have Vert has a much bigger role in the Neptunia game compared to the past games, for Vert at least. I know some people will say it gets kind of repetitive after a while, but I love the battle hack and slash combat of the game. It was so addicting. Love using the multiple skills and prioritizing the defense with the AI and playing the different characters that had their own unique playstyle in a way. Plus Uni, it was so much fun playing as Uni, just going around gun blazing. It was bad A. I mean, yes, it kind of made the game a little bit easier, but to be fair, as you progress through the game, it gets a lot harder even after using Uni, especially the Demon King Jester and Cheetah. Both of them are pretty tough bosses, and I'm really happy to say that this is my second favorite Neptunia game in the series. Granted, it's really hard for me to choose, but considering the fact I had a lot more playtime with this, as well as some interesting story with Uzume and her backstory, and some of the changes that they did definitely made this unique. I love it a bit more, but for Godzillas Online, I had a blast with this, and I do recommend people, if they love like MMO-esque games or anything, to give it a go. I gave it to my friend Tyler as a Christmas, or at least my regular pre-order, before I discovered this beauty of a limited edition here. But regardless, it's a fun game. I really had a blast with this. It took a whole year for me to get to it finally, after deciding not to go through the entire series in chronological order, but the wait was worth it in my opinion. And that's all the time we have for today, folks. So if you have any thoughts on 4 Goddesses Online, please let a comment in the comment section below. And again, the game is pretty easy. I think I saw a brand new copy of it at GameStop for like $30, I believe. I'm not sure. I know it's still like $50 on the PSN. And yeah, I had a tremendous time with the title. I mean, I know I geeked about it so long, I'm not even sure how long this video's gotta be. I'm not sure, but still, I really enjoyed it. And yeah, I'm not really sure what spin-off game to play next. I mean, there's a lot. So if you guys are interested in me talk about like the Noir spin-off, or talk about the game where IF plays as a main character, you never know which game in the Vita catalog of Neptunia games you would like for me to cover next here on the Delmar Show. So thank you guys for watching this, God bless yous, and I will see you all in the next Delmar Show episode. Bye bye!